Hello, my creative writing class, and welcome to the very, very, very last creative writing video class thingy of the year. We have reached the end, and it's pretty bittersweet. On the one hand, yay, we lived. We got through it. We survived. We survived. Yay! On the other hand, I legitimately look forward to reading the things that you come up with. I generally save them a little bit for the weekend. Sometimes I get to them during the middle of this week. But you are always creative. And you guys are always fun. You guys always come up with things that make me laugh, or make me think, or otherwise are just dang awesome. And I better plug in my computer so I don't run out of power. That would be bad. There we go. Hopefully it'll also run at a better frame rate now. Okay, so most of the time when we're at the very end of the year, a couple things will happen. One, I will give you back those letters to yourself. I will give people those letters back at the beginning of next year, because that's when I'll be able to see you, unless you are a senior, in which case I will give it to you at graduation, because I will be at graduation, assuming we're in a building. If something changes, then I will change it up, but I'll give that to you at graduation. 2. We would have kind of a party where we'd play writing games and have fun and eat treats. So writing games are kind of a hard thing to do as a group when we're doing this. Normally we play like that pass the story game or the telephone or some sort of game like that. But we're not going to do that today. But it is very important that you have treats. I found some Takis, and I don't really like Takis, but I also found some hot sauce that is tasty. So I have some spicy food. And I have a cookie that my wife made. So I'm going to eat that while I'm doing today's thing. Very important. Stop right now if you don't have any treats. And in this cup, I have a beverage that tastes like grape Skittles. I found a package of flavored water stuff in my cabinet, and it says it tastes like grape Skittles, and it kind of does. Artificial. So, go grab some snacks. Very important to have snacks. Number 2. Or next thing you leave. So, we have these things. So that's as close as we can get. Then we'd play a game. The games I would normally like to play are like interactive games, and that is fun, but we can't do that. So instead, we're going to play a game called The End is the Beginning, because I think that fits with it being the end of the school year. So the way that the end is the beginning works. First off, you're going to set a timer. So, do I have a timer on my computer? Timer. Alarms and clocks. Set it for 30 minutes. So when you start, this is going to be 30 minutes. You can do this on your phone. I will just set it up here. 30 minutes. Today. We're going to pause that. Okay, I got my timer. It's right there. It's got my 30-minute timer. That's apparently as small as I can get it. I'm going to set it there so I can see it. Now, the goal of the end is the beginning. You can do this in 2 levels, but I'm just going to suggest you do level 1, which is you go get a random book. So I'm going to go get a random book. I have lots of random books. Let's find one I haven't read. No, wait, no, can't do that one. I'm gonna fast forward to this bit, but that was creepy. What's this? All right. Okay, so here's a book I just grabbed. It's called The Headless Cupid. I have never read this book. This is a new one. If I'm lucky, I'll be able to get to this one over the summer. I'm trying to get through the Newbery winners. There's hundreds of them. So, grab a book. Now, go to the very end of the book. The very last page of the story. So sometimes you'll have a story where, like, this story has a secret sneak peek to the next story. Don't do that one. Go to the very, very, very last line of a story. You can do a book you've done before, you can do one you haven't done before, but go find a book and go find the very last page. And go find the very, very last line. Now let's write it down. So here is the last line of that. He went on wondering about it for a long time, particularly every time he went up the stairs and looked at that Cupid with its head on a little bit. So, the reason you can use a book you've read before, but I prefer it if you've done a book that you've never read. Why? Because I don't know, since I've never read that book, I don't know what the context of this is. And that's kind of important here. Because what we're going to do is we're going to do kind of a stream of consciousness writing type thing. We have this, it's going to be the very first line of the story that we're going to write. Now your goal, inside your brain, if you're anything like me, is that dude who says, hey, that's a dumb idea. How about you don't write that? And a lot of times when I am... Oh no. Hold on for a second. Did the mic go out? Nope. Okay, mic's still on. Okay, I thought my mic went out on me and you wouldn't be able to hear me. Okay, sorry. Back to the thing. So, if you're anything like me, when you are writing, when you're doing anything, you kind of have that dude in the back of your head who tells you that this is a bad idea, that you just not do that, etc., etc. And sometimes that guy is a good thing to have. But sometimes in writing, he's the worst thing in the entire world. And so, for the next half hour while we do this, your job is to shut that guy off. And to just write the things. Even if what you are writing at that moment doesn't seem very good, you can always erase it. Every so often, I'll be doing this, and I will just have a string of obscenities where I am very annoyed with the words that are coming out of my brain, and then I have to go back and fix it. The goal is to take this, make it your first line of a story that you're writing. Start with no ideas, except for this right here, and then just keep writing. And my experience with this is that if you do this, at a particular point, it will click. You just keep typing. You don't stop typing, you just keep typing. Or if you're doing this by hand, you keep writing, I'm going to type. And you just keep going. Spelling, I mean, if you fix the spelling error, what do you do? But don't worry about all the spelling and the punctuation. Don't do a lot of things I normally tell you to do, like plan. I just want you to see what happens. This is not the greatest way to always write, but it is a way for me when I get like stuck in that trap of writer's block. This kind of helps me. I just keep going. And then at the very end, what I've got is what I've got. I don't want you to edit this. I don't want you to do any of those things. I just want you to write for 30 minutes with this as your prompt. So go, not this prompt. You don't use my prompt. Go find a book. You can pause this. Find the very last line in that book. write it down. And then once you've got that down, you're going to start writing. I'm going to write for 30 minutes, and I'm going to see what happens. This will be fast forwarded for you because nobody wants to watch me just sit here and write. And occasionally I'll stop and maybe make mention of something. But I'm going to kind of just try and write for 30 minutes straight, and we're going to see what happens. If you want, you can throw some music on in the background. I like to have music while this is going on. I probably shouldn't listen to the blurst of times. While amazing and great and wonderful, I'm going to throw on something that's just instrumental. We'll go right here. This is a channel I like. And I want something that doesn't have any lyrics. Okay, this album is amazing. I love it. Let's listen to it. Alright, so I got some music going in the background. You might have some music growing in the background. You know what? No, I don't want this album. I love this album, but it's not the right mood. I want something a little more chill. Yeah. We'll go with These Trees Could Talk, The Bones of the Dying World. Okay. Make sure you have the proper supplies. A brain. The first line, last line of a book that's going to be your first line. Treats of some sort that you can eat. Maybe a beverage. Maybe it tastes like Skittles. Let's see what happens. So, I've been writing for like 15 minutes and I've forgotten a word. So I'm going to drink a drink. I'm going to eat a spicy thing. And then I'm going to remember the part of the back of a bicycle that you stand on. Like a BMX bike. Back to it. Okay. Okay, so there's a half hour of writing. I'm really pretty happy with where this is going. So, if you don't finish, that's cool. Maybe you'll come up with something that is something you want to work on later. One thing that is really cool about this is when you force yourself to just write. And I think I stopped like 3 times. 1, because I couldn't remember the name of the thing. 2, because I wanted some food. And like 3, because I wanted to re-describe something. But for the very most part, I spent a half hour writing. I have 837 words. It's a lot of writing in 30 minutes. That's a decent amount of writing, especially for not having an idea. So it's not finished yet, but I came up with some cool ideas. I kind of have an idea where this is going. But for the first half of this, I had no idea what was going to happen here. I didn't know what the idea was, but it kind of started with this one idea, and I just let my brain do things. I wrote down the things that were going in there. I'm writing down the connections that I'm making, and I'm just trying to tell a story. And here's what I came up with. He went on wondering about it for a long time, particularly every time he went up to the stairs and looked at this Cupid with its head on, a little bit, oh, crooked. Let's fix that. Crooked. So that's the thing he gave me. So like I said, what that kind of made me think of is like when I tried to hide a thing I'd broken from my parents. And so I like, okay, we'll start with this idea of a kid trying to hide a thing from their parents. And then as I'm going, I'm like, okay, so why would he do this, and what would this mean, what would this thing mean? And then it made me think of some other stuff, and eventually ended up at the flea market. Here we go. Perhaps his mother would never realize that it looked at you just a little bit askew. And as I go back, perhaps now as I went, I changed, and I wanted to change it from mother to ma, because these people change. So as I go through, if I were to redo this, I might make some revisions, but that's not my main concern right now. I never realized that it looked at you just a little bit askew. Maybe she would, and that was the kind of the fun of it, that never knowing if she would find out. It was like this little secret he had, one that was always just in front of her, but she never quite saw, like when she'd leave her glasses on the tip of her nose and lose track of where she'd put them, running around the house and tearing up the couch cushions for her lost glasses. It made him feel like he could grow beyond her and the little world she created for him. So I kind of have this idea right here of like a kid who grew up like super overprotected and had broken a thing and didn't want mom to figure out. Of course, he knew it was because she loved him, because he was her last, because of what had happened to Gregory. And then I have this idea that, why would somebody be really, really protective of somebody? Well, maybe something happened to an older child. They don't want to happen to them. Maybe they lost people. And so, I'm like, okay, something happened to a person. What's her name? Gregory. That she wouldn't let him out after the dark or play football or ride a skateboard or hike around the hills like Gregory had before the Cupid. But that didn't mean he had to like it. And then I'm like, okay, I got to have this come back to the Cupid. The Cupid's got to mean something. So I'm like, well, maybe Gregory got him the Cupid, and that's why it matters. And so the Cupid, with its head stuck all on habit, was crazy glued and placed just so that the shadows didn't accentuate the crack, was his secret. And he'd check it out before she called out at 8 that it was time for bed, that nothing had moved, and that she hadn't found out and was now protecting him from that too. And I kind of have some run-on sentences here, mostly because I'm just like letting my brain go. But I also kind of want to recreate the idea of like the way that you think when you're a kid and you're going from one idea to the next. And he supposed maybe that was why he didn't tell her, to protect her, because the Cupid was all that was left. So maybe, just maybe, he wasn't any better than she was. The thought sent a shiver down his 14-year-old spine. I wrote that part because I needed to give this person an age. I'm like, okay, let's make him 14. Isn't that what he was always said, that if you lived long enough, you'd become your parents? Of course, you'd swear to the high hills that you'd never, ever, ever become like them, that you'd do it different. But somehow it seemed Mom was just like Grams, right down to the figurines that littered every countertop and dresser throughout their little 2-bedroom house. So that reminded me of a friend's house and like other people's houses that have all these figurines over there. And that's where I kind of got I wanted to go with Ma and Gramps, because that would give us more of a country feel, and I figured that would work better. Which brought him back to the Cupid and how Gregory had found it down at the flea market. Why flea market? Because that's the thing that came to my brain right there. The one at the outskirts of town on the first Sunday of every month, weather permitting. Ma didn't like him going there. Too many shifty-looking customers, she'd say. You're going to get fleeced, Gregory. But there was something magical about it, and so one Sunday when Ma had to go work a double shift down the Stop and Shop, Gregory had taken him with him. The 10 miles, so now I have to figure out, so like I'm thinking of settings, so I have to like, let's put them out into, I think like Wyoming, like eastern Wyoming, where it's flat, where it's flat and there's like nothing. They're outside of town, there's like hills out there, but it's mostly just like flat potato farms or grain or something like that. And I want to place them out there. And I'm like, okay, let's have her be a single parent at this point is what I'm thinking of. I don't know why she is. I don't know what's going on there. But let's have her do that because that'll create that isolation. Plus, it's easier to write only one parent. And it also gives me a reason why there's no dad in the house. So that was just like, okay, we'll play with that. The 10 miles down the road were bumpy, and more than once he'd almost had his 8-year-old self plopped right off the footholds of the back wheels of Gregory's 10-speed. And that's where I couldn't remember what the name of the back things are on a bike, like a BMX bike, but whatever. So by the time they arrived, he was covered with dust and his little knees ached. And part of the reason I did that is I wanted to put some distance here. So you have him 14 in this, which would be about the age of what I figure Gregory is at this point, maybe a little bit older. But he's 8, so he looks up to his older brother. The market was nothing like he'd ever seen. So many people. He didn't know if Pa had been one for people, but their house sat smack dab at the base of the hills, hidden by a grove of aspen trees that simultaneously gave it a sense of adventure and isolation, like something out of The Hobbit or one of those horror novels Gregory stashed under his bed, the ones Ma pretended not to know about. So I wanted to create a difference between Ma and the way she is right now, as I've created her, and when Gregory was there. Because I don't think she would let whatever the name character's name is get away with that. Everywhere he turned, there were legs and faces and sundresses and overalls and people with tattoos down their arms. I don't know if you've ever been to a flea market, but that's what it's like. There was shouting and people bartering over the price of torn leather seat cushions. The air smelled faintly of underarms and the dust and the inside dust and the inside of old books mingled with sawdust. And I have dust in there twice, so like I might put in here underarms, dirt, sawdust. Still not my favorite, but I'll keep that. I like the idea of I love the smell of old books, so I throw that in there because like it's also like this old dusty musty smell, but it's the most wonderful smell in the world. So I wanted it to be this thing that kind of smells bad, but also is intriguing. It was intoxicating, and he immediately realized why Gregory came out here each month and why he went off into the hills or snuck out at night to meet with Jessica. Here you might lose your glasses, but only because there was so much else to steal your attention. I like that line. That's that line I like because it creates a in my brain. It's like, oh, I can connect this to the very beginning, and I can create this different because like sometimes you lose things, and it's just like because you're so distracted by everything around you. We're going to get Ma something, Gregory told him. This was, of course, how Gregory would get away with this. Ma would know they'd been out, and she'd know that Gregory had brought him along because that's how Ma was. She could lose her glasses when they were on the tip of her nose, but she knew when her kids had been out, like she could smell it on him, as if the scent of underarms and pine stuck to them like ink. That's my favorite line of the whole thing. I like that one. I was proud of myself. So Gregory would buy her a trinket, something that sat on the kitchen counter, and Ma would fuss, but in the end, wasn't he a considerate child, and she'd let him off with a stern glass, and tomorrow he'd come big in at 3 a.m. with the scent of Jessica on his collar. The Cupid sat on a table with a squat old woman, fanning herself with an oriental fan. Her mustache was thicker than Gregory's. And I don't know where the story goes from here. I ran out of time. Gregory's going to buy this thing, there's going to be an adventure. Gregory's going to die, probably. And he's going to end up breaking the Cupid. And that's probably how the story's going to go. I don't really know what's going on. This isn't a story that's super based off of, like, a conflict. This is a character study. I like character studies. I think they're fun. So, that's basically what I want you to do today. Set a timer for 30 minutes. Grab some treats. Find the last line of a book, make it the first line of your thing, and then just write for 30 minutes. Don't stop, don't judge. Something weird will happen. This was not what I expected to happen. I didn't know where this story was going. No stinking clue. Man, I came up with something that it's not done, but I like this. This could go somewhere, and it would be a good story. And it would be something that I like. And that's one of the cool things that happens. So that's it for creative writing. I really, really, really hope that you guys had fun with this. Hope you came up with some stuff that was interesting to you and that you found intriguing. I hope that you played around with ideas that you hadn't thought of. I hope that you got to be creative, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you take creative writing again from me, that's cool. Or take psychology from me, because psychology is cool. If you have any questions, you need any help, anything with that, send me an email. Come Google Meet. Any of those things. I'm more than happy to help you out. And I look forward to whatever the heck you guys come up with.
See ya. Miss ya.